Welcome to the first video of a 3-series about the mysteries of ancient Rome. Imagine an entire Roman legion, over 5,000 elite soldiers, marching into the mist and never returning. No battle records, no graves, no survivors. This is a story of Legio IX Hispana, the 9th Legion and one of Rome's greatest vanishing acts. When we think of legendary lost legions, thoughts turn to the 10th and the bridge at the Rhine. But the 9th may have had an even stranger fate. Unlike the 10th, almost nothing has been recovered about its last stand, leaving us with more questions than answers. Here's what we know and what we think we know about the lost 9th Legion. The 9th Legion was no ordinary unit. It was a veteran force hardened by years of campaigning and earning Caesar the nickname Hispana after its exploits in the peninsula. Originally raised during the civil wars between Caesar and Pompey, the men of the 9th would go on to fight against the Gauls in Caesar's Gallic Wars and earn his favor. We know this thanks to two famous pieces of art depicting the 9th and the Emperor. One shows the presentation of standards to the 9th, while the other depicts the Battle of Alesia, where the 9th played a key role. After crushing the rebellion of Spartacus, the 9th would be stationed in Britannia around 128, where it would remain until its disappearance from history around 142 AD. We don't know much about life in Britannia for the 9th, but we do know about its commander during this time, Gnaeus Julius. He was the father of Julia Maesa, the grandmother of the Severan dynasty, and the mother of Julia Maesa. So the 9th had at least one prominent member during its final days in Britannia. So where did the 9th go? Most sources agree. The legion vanished somewhere in the north of Britain. This part of Britannia was known as Caledonia, and its inhabitants, the Caledonians, were fierce warriors who often clashed with the Romans. But if the 9th disappeared in battle, why is there no Roman record of its loss? To answer this question, we must look to Hadrian's Wall, or more specifically, the Antonine Wall, built by Antoninus Pius between 142 and 147 AD. The wall was meant to keep the unconquered parts of Caledonia separated from the rest of it. That means the 9th could have been posted along these northern borders when it vanished, possibly during a campaign to push the Caledonians back. But again, there is no record of such a battle. If the 9th really was fighting along the Antonine Wall, it seems strange that its deeds would be erased from history. Why would Rome hide the loss of an entire legion? One possibility is that the disappearance was too embarrassing to admit. If the 9th was defeated in battle, perhaps the embarrassment of losing so many men at the hands of barbarian tribes was too great to bear. The 9th may have tried to cover up its own losses, hoping that a quick counterattack would restore their honor. In this scenario, the 9th did battle with the Caledonians, suffered heavy losses and was forced to retreat. Then, in an attempt to save face, ordered the records of its defeat to be destroyed and pushed on into Caledonia, never to return. There is some evidence to support this theory. For instance, an inscription found at Carodundar suggests that the local chieftain was killed by Roman cavalry, likely a detachment from the 9th. And a fragment of a letter from the historian Cassius Dio mentions a Roman victory over the Caledonians under the command of a man named Julius, but the letter is incomplete, so we can't be sure if this victory was before or after the legion vanished. Another explanation is that the 9th was not destroyed in battle, but covertly removed from Britannia and secretly redeployed to the east. If true, this would mean the 9th wasn't lost, only hidden. There are a few details to support this idea. First, archaeological traces of the 9th end in Ebracombe, modern York, suggesting it left with little fanfare. Second, the 9th was a prestigious unit. With a proven track record, it would have been useful in the east to fight against the Parthians. It was common for emperors to move veteran units to new provinces, to put down rebellions, or to start new wars. Third, the 9th may have been ordered to Judea, which was in open revolt against Rome at the time. The records of the 9th disappearing coincide with the outbreak of the revolt against the Emperor Hadrian. It's possible the legion was moved to put down the rebellion. This would explain why there is no record of the 9th's presence in Judea. It was common for military records to be destroyed to prevent the enemy from learning about troop deployments. Finally, there is a tombstone of a Roman soldier who served in the 9th in the Netherlands. It dates from around 144 AD, which coincides with the supposed date of the 9th's disappearance, but this is just one soldier, not evidence that the whole legion survived. This is where things get weird. The third theory is that the 9th was deliberately erased from history by someone within Rome. Proponents of this idea point out how suspiciously complete the record of the 9th's existence is. We know it was founded, when it fought, and where it was stationed, but we know next to nothing about what happened in between. Historian David Breeze believes the 9th may have been involved in a plot against Hadrian and was eliminated to cover it up. Another historian, Geoffrey Stell, went even further and claimed the 9th was actually the 8th, and that the emperors confused the two and destroyed records of the 8th to protect its honor. There is no evidence either of these events took place, and both historians are considered fringe. So if the 9th was not lost in battle, secretly moved out of Britain, or deliberately taken out of history, what else could have happened? perhaps the men simply faded away. One legend claims that the Legion was caught in a thick fog while campaigning in Caledonia and never seen again. While superstitious nonsense, it does reflect the nature of the Ninth's disappearance. We have no evidence it met its end in Britain. It just seems to have vanished from existence. Its records were destroyed, its camp abandoned, its soldiers gone. But the most compelling reason for the disappearance of the Ninth may be the most straightforward. The Legion was wiped out, but the Romans didn't want to admit it. As Edward Champlin wrote in his book, The Roman Army and Society, it was impossible for Rome to admit to losing an entire legion, no matter the cause. So instead, they quietly covered up its loss, hoping no one would notice. In this scenario, the Ninth did meet its end in Caledonia, but not in a single battle. Instead, the Legion was gradually worn down by years of campaigning. Soldiers became sick of fighting, and the Legion slowly lost cohesion. When Rome learned of its sorry state, it sent for the Ninth. But before the recall orders arrived, the Ninth engaged the Caledonians one final time. The result was a disaster, but not one that Rome could admit to. So the Legion was quietly written out of history, its deeds forgotten. Over the centuries, legends grew about the Ninth. One popular story claims the Legion marched into Scotland and was never seen again. Others say the soldiers became bogged down in the mist and turned to bone. These stories stuck around for hundreds of years, and as late as Shakespeare's time, people believed the Ninth had fallen in Scotland. Of course, none of these stories are true, but they do reflect the enduring mysteries surrounding the Ninth Legion. What happened to the Ninth Legion? Leave your theory in the comments. Like the video, subscribe to Ancient Worlds Revealed, and tap the bell for Part 2, Whispers Beneath the Colosseum, because the past never stays buried for long.